You're listening to Fanfiction Factory, the show that takes you to parts unknown with familiar faces and familiar places. And now, he could have been there to save the dinosaurs, but he was double booked that day. Draco from Gatorbox.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was there, but I had other stuff I had to tend to. So, you know, there was the meteor, there's the big asteroid that was coming, and we knew about that. We actually had the technology to stop it. The dinosaurs were actually a really advanced civilization. I don't know if anyone here knows that, but like I said, I was busy with other things to tend to, and I just couldn't be there. And, you know, what wound up happening was total mass extinction. You know, that does it suck? Yeah. Do I wish I could go back and make things right? Yeah. But, you know, life goes on. And sometimes you just got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and just learn from the past and, you know, just move on. You got to do you. You got to do you. Anyways, that's Nintendo, everybody. Nintendo, thank you for the intro. I appreciate it. Welcome to Fanfiction Factory. I am, of course, your host, Draco from Gatorbox. And in this week's podcast, we're going somewhere unique. Normally on this show, we feature fanfics that are written by people with the best of intentions that kind of fall flat on their faces, and we've had a laugh at all sorts of things ranging from Looney Tunes creepypasta to Sonic the Hedgehog plus Resident Evil and everything in between. However that fits into everything in between, I don't know. But in today's episode, we're going to take things a little more slowly, and I would like to take this episode to pay respects to a dear friend of mine who passed away at the end of last year. His name was Richard, and he was a big fan of Tiny Toons Adventures, and he was a big fan of BattleBots. His love of robot combat and everything else was larger than life. And from a young age, he struggled with cancer. He survived liver cancer when he was around 4 or 5 years old. But unfortunately, when he was in his mid-20s, it came back. And he was constantly in and out of the hospital, getting treatment from doctors, getting fluid drained and everything else. And on December 24th, 2021, we received news that he had passed away. And, you know, they really kind of took the wind out of my sails, you know, like that's gotta be, I mean, come on, the day before Christmas. I mean, I'm not mad at Richard for not holding on. I'm just saying, why couldn't he be taken after Christmas? At least be able to enjoy one more with his family. You know what I mean? And it's just a real tragedy. But, you know, he had aspirations to compete on BattleBots on television someday. He actually bought a former competitor, a robot called Spinning Mayhem, and I believe that the Craigslist listing for the robot said $2,000, but I want to say he only paid like $500 for it. And he bought this old robot from the original BattleBots show and managed to get it working again. This is technology that was like 20 years old almost, with old motors, old, you know, NiCad batteries, and with the help of some other builders, he was able to retrofit new parts into this old machine and get it working again. And he had aspirations to apply to BattleBots and compete on the big stage, and unfortunately he will never get that chance. His mother wants to take the helm of the robot combat team, however, so maybe his robot will be able to fly in the arena someday, and it'll be a special moment for everybody, because we know that Richard will be cheering us on from the other side. But I bring up all that today because Richard also wrote fan fiction, and today's fanfic is really interesting because it's one of the ways that led me to meet Richard. So I actually met him in the robot combat community, and we got to talking. I noticed he was a big fan of Tiny Toons Adventures. He would reblog other things on like Facebook from like Tiny Toons fan pages, and I'm a big fan of that show as well. So we got to talking about things, and then he mentioned he had written Tiny Toons fan fiction, and then linked me to his fan fiction page. And on that page, well, I found today's story, and I had already read that story. I'd read parts of it, and I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. You're the guy who wrote that? Like, I read that years ago. And so we had this special moment of bonding between just us two, where, you know, we knew we were like brothers from another mother. You know what I mean? Where we just had that moment where we just clicked, and you know, it was really special to me. So with that said, I would like to use today's show to highlight probably his magnum opus fanfic. The name of the story is Acme Acres Robot Rumble. It is 46 chapters long and 77,000 words long. We are not going to read all of it on the show today, but we are going to read the beginning, some of the middle, and the ending. A lot of the middle is just, you know, different robot combat fights, so I'm going to read one of those chapters, and then we'll move on and kind of skip ahead a bit. We're not going to miss much of the plot, but to give you a better idea, we are going to be reading chapters 1, 2, 3, 8, 20, 44, 45, and 46. So that's that's going to be a mouthful. But this story was published on June 2nd, 2014, and it was completed. It's a complete story. Richard finished it on June 8th, 2016. So almost exactly 2 years to the date that he started it. He made good on his word, and he finished it. And I just think it's incredible that he had the dedication to write 46 chapters of fanfic, you know, 77,000 words. That's a lot of writing. So once again, this is Acme Acres Robot Rumble. It is a Tiny Toons Adventures and Robot Wars crossover fanfic where the characters fight in Robot Wars UK. And, well, without further ado, let's get into the story. It was another day at Acme Lou, and the students were in the hallway getting ready for their next classes. Furball and Fifi were at their own lockers side by side when they heard Calamity's voice call out. "Hey guys," the Gray Coyote shouted at the Cat and Skunk. "What is it, Cal?" said Furball. "Come over here, I've got something to show you." "Okay, be right there," Fifi replied as she and Furball closed their lockers and hurried up to Calamity, who was with Buster, Babs, Shirley, Plucky, Hampton, Little Beeper, and Cassette. "What's going on here?" Furball asked. "I have something to show you guys," Calamity replied as he pulled out a laptop. "What is it?" Babs asked. "Acme Acres will be hosting a brand new competition in a couple of months, and it's the first time this town will be hosting this specific sport." "Oh, which one?" Plucky asked before he changed into different outfits that are associated with his guesses. "Rodeo? Water polo? Extreme shuffleboards?" "Nope. Robot combat." And with the press of a button, Calamity turned his laptop to the tunes where they saw a video of various robots in different sizes and shapes fighting each other. There was a robot with a large vertical flywheel smacking into a 4-inch tall robot and sending it flying in a shower of sparks. Another robot grabbing a plant-covered robot and lifting it completely off the ground. And another robot with a demonic face and devilish smile spinning itself onto its side and upside down. "Wow," exclaimed Buster. "Is this real?" "Yep, this is all 100% real." "What is this?" Furball asked. "It's a show called BattleBots," Cosette replied, "where people builds these killer robots and fights them in an enclosed arena for money." "Ooh, sounds tres exciting, no?" Fifi said. "Yes, it is, and Acme Acres will be hosting their first ever robot competition here in a couple of months." "Awesome," Shirley said. I think it would be really fun if we built a robot and competed together as a team or some junk." "That would be fun," said Calamity, "but there's only one problem." "What's that?" asked Hampton. Calamity closed his laptop as he continued. "The competition will be having 16 people from Acme Lou competing against 16 people from Perfecto Prep." Little Beeper pulled out a sign that says, "Are you serious?" "I'm dead serious. I already built my robot and I'm working on cassettes right now, so that makes 2 for Acme Lou. We need 14 more people to enter." "Well, count me in," said Furball. "Oui, me too," said Fifi. "Okay, that's 4, Calamity replied. "Anyone else?" "I want in," said Plucky. "So do I," Shirley responded. "We don't want to be left out either," Buster said, referring to himself and Babs. "All right, what about you guys?" Calamity asked Hampton and Little Beeper. "Well, Hampton said as he scratched the back of his head, uncertain if he wanted to enter or not. "I don't know. I mean," Little Beeper elbowed Hampton and gave him a nod. After a moment, Hampton came up with his decision. "What the heck. Might as well try something new." "Excellent," Calamity replied. "So that's 10. We just need 6 more people." "Who else could we ask to join?" Furball asked. "Let's split up and look for someone who's interested in competing." After Furball and Fifi split from the group and spent a few minutes searching for someone to enter their robot competition, they came across Sweetie Bird and Little Sneezer, who were having a conversation. "Hey guys, how's it going?" Furball spoke up. "Hi Furball," Little Sneezer greeted. "What are you doing here?" Sweetie scolded at the blue cat. "Well, there's this robot tournament going on, and we need a few more people to join the event and represent Acme Lou." "We already know about it," Sneezer replied. "You do?" Fifi asked. "Yeah, Sweetie and I were talking about what our robots would look like, and, Oh no," Furball said as he and Fifi stepped back before he quickly concluded. "I'm glad you guys are entering. See you guys later. Bye." The cat and skunk immediately fled for their lives as Sweetie flew up and away from the mouse. Achoo! "Bless me. That's it?" Sweetie asked. "No hurricane of a sneeze?" "Nope, not this time." Meanwhile, Shirley was putting things away in her locker and getting ready for class. She closed her locker, and as she turned to head straight to class, she spotted Foulmouth coming toward her. "Hi, Shirley," said the little chicken. Like, "Hello, Foulmouth. How are you?" Dadgum same old, I'll talk to you later." "Okay, bye." As the two parted, Shirley stopped in her tracks and quickly realized something. "Foulmouth, wait!" She turned back, facing Foulmouth again. "What is it, Shirley?" "Like, I want to ask you a favor." "Anything, my dear." "I was wondering if you can enter this robot contest with me or some junk." "You mean, as a team?" "No, I mean, as a representative of Acme Lou. We're going to be fighting against Perfecto Prep, and we need a couple more people. I'd like to join, but I don't have a dadgum robot." "It's okay, the competition is a couple months away. I'm sure you'll have time to build a robot or some junk." "Really? Okay, I'll try my best. Anyway, gotta go. See ya." As the two birds parted again, Shirley turned a corner toward Calamity and Cassette. "Now we got Foulmouth," Shirley said to the coyote. "Thanks, Shirley. I'll add him right now." Calamity took out a notepad and wrote down Foulmouth on a list of people competing in the competition. "We only need 3 more now," the coyote said. "Who else could we ask?" Cassette replied. "I don't know, but I'm sure we'll figure it out later." So that was Chapter 1, titled The Arrival of a New Sport. We're going to jump ahead to Chapter 2, which is titled Construction Begins. Later that day, the bell rang as the students left the school to get ready for the weekend. Furball and Fifi were walking down the street when a voice called out from behind. "Hey guys!" The cat and skunk turned to see Dizzy Devil coming up to them. "Bonjour, Dizzy," Fifi greeted. "How are you?" "Doing great. Dizzy looks forward to the robot competition." "Are you going to compete?" Furball asked. "Yes, Dizzy already built robot. We will crush other robots." "That's great, buddy. I can't wait to see it. You guys going too?" "We sure are," Fifi replied. "What does your robot do?" "Robot spins like Dizzy." And in that moment, Dizzy started spinning and headed across the street to his home. "Okay, see you at the event," Furball shouted at the purple Tasmanian devil. The cat and skunk continued their walk to the Acme junkyard. Once they arrived at the red Cadillac, Furball and Fifi put their school supplies away since they were given no homework for the weekend and roamed around the junkyard. They went over to the other side of Fifi's home where a porta potty, a stove with an awning, and a refrigerator stood. Soon afterwards, Furball spoke up. "So, Fifi, we only have a couple of months to build ourselves a couple of robots. And I think we shall use whatever we find in this junkyard to build our robots." "All right, I say we shan't show our robots until we are completely finished building them." "Sounds good to moi. May the best robot win." At that moment, the cat and skunk shook hands before they parted to different areas of the junkyard. They each made their own workspace in opposite corners of the junkyard. At Furball's end of the junkyard, he found several small steel frames, a few wheels with inflatable tires, and a few 750-watt motors. Over on Fifi's side, she found some windshield wiper motors, a large steel plate, and some aluminum and polycarbonate panels. The couple went to the hardware store to get the tools they needed to create their robots. They bought some welders, grinders, hammers, and Furball bought himself a milling machine. After they got back to the junkyard, they continued with their constructions. Furball welded the steel frames together and formed them into a chassis. Next, he placed 4 of the 5 motors he found into the chassis, putting the extra motor aside, looking to use that for a weapon. Meanwhile, Fifi used her tools to cut the black steel plate into a neatly shaped pair of spikes. She made the chassis from aluminum frame and placed the windshield wiper motors in place on the chassis. She found 4 motors in total, meaning to make a 4-wheeled robot, but after scavenging for more parts, she found 4 more motors and decided to have a 6-wheeled robot instead, while using the 2 remaining motors for the weapons. Back at Furball's work area, he started making several different weapons for his robot, since he didn't know what kind of robots he'll be facing. He made a solid metal disc, a steel wedge, and just a static steel spike, to name a few. As for Fifi, with the 2 extra motors she found, she planned to equip her robot with the black steel spikes and make them electric lifting spikes. As for the other motor, she planned on adding a device on her robot that would flip it back over if it got turned upside down. Later at the Cadillac, after doing some more work on her robot, Fifi went inside to prepare dinner, only to see Furball resting in bed, breathing tiredly, sweating, one arm hanging over the side. The blue cat's whole body was aching after all the work spent on building his robot. His eyes were closed, his tongue sticking out. Fifi approached the blue cat and pulled the blanket up over him. She then kissed him on his forehead and gently stroked the top of his head. Furball continued to breathe exhaustingly as Fifi stepped back. "Poor thing," she said softly, not wanting to wake Furball up. She wished she could help him with his robot, but Furball wanted to keep it all a surprise. The purple skunk silently exited the car and went around to the other side to cook dinner. So, that's the end of Chapter 2. Like, these chapters, they kind of go pretty fast, but like I said, there is, 77,000 words in this story, so we're skipping the bulk of it. So we're going to jump ahead to the next beginning chapter before we skip to the middle. And the next chapter is Chapter 3, Construction Finished. The cat and skunk returned to the hardware store, Furball trading the extra motor he found for a 3.5 horsepower motor, which he believed would be perfect for his robot's weapon. The two bought a few paint cans, red and black for Furball, yellow and black for Fifi, and quickly returned to their workstations. They spent a month and a half working on their robots, and the competition was getting closer and closer. The couple painted their robots, Furball painting his robot almost completely red, with the sides painted black. Fifi painted her robot with a yellow and black stripe pattern on the side, and painted a large black spider on the top of her robot. Once Fifi put her finishing touches on her robot, sharpening the spikes with her grinder and placing a sticker of the French flag on the side of her robot, she grabbed her remote control and powered it on. Meanwhile, Furball just finished painting the name of his robot on the side. A smile appeared on his face as he proudly stared at his completed machine. "Finally," Furball sighed. "All finished." "Furball!" Fifi called out. Furball frantically grabbed a blue tarp and covered his robot just as Fifi appeared from a pile of junk. "Oh, hey Fifi. Bonjour. How's it going?" "Well, I just finished my robot." "Oh, you did? Let's see." "Well, what about you? Are you finished?" We shall, how you say, reveal our robots now, starting with you." "Oh, okay," the blue cat cleared his throat before he continued. "Fifi, I'd like you to say hello to my robot, Tornado." And with that, Furball removed the tarp and uncovered his robot. "Ooh," Fifi exclaimed, astonished. Tornado was a basic box-shaped robot with a durable red-welded steel frame and clear polycarbonate armor with fixed spikes at the front and back. The robot was equipped with a vertical spinning disc at the front. The design would allow it to run upside down if it got flipped. "Ooh la la," Fifi said as she stepped toward Furball's robot for a closer look. "It's tres nice, Furball. Does this thing at the front spin?" "Yep, at 2,000 RPM. Ooh, it's tres fast, no?" "Oh yeah, very fast." "And it can drive upside down?" "Yep, if it gets flipped, it can still fight." "Clever. Well, I bet you'll be, how do you say, shocked when you see my robot." "All right then, let's see it." Fifi stepped aside as she used her remote control to bring her robot around the corner. "Oh wow," Furball exclaimed as he saw Fifi's robot turn and come up toward him. Fifi's robot was a yellow and black striped six-wheel driven box shape with a set of electrically powered 12-inch long lifting spikes at the front and skirt wedges at the sides. The top of the robot had an extra layer of armor with the spider painted on it. A pair of angry red eyes were painted at the front with the spikes in between. "Holy mackerel," Furball said, feeling very astonished. "This is very cool. What's it called?" "Panic Attack." "Panic Attack." Furball noticed the spikes at the front of the robot and asked, "What do these do?" "They are the lifting spikes. I show yous." With the motion in the joystick and Fifi's transmitter, the spikes on her robot moved up at a 90-degree angle. "Wow, very nice. What's this thing on top?" "It's something to help flip back over if it gets flipped." "Oh, it's a self-righting mechanism?" Watch this." Furball looked to see the top layer of Fifi's robot move upward in a similar fashion to the spikes, also at a 90-degree angle. "Very cool, Fifi. What say we take our robots out for, how do you say, a test drive?" "Okay, sounds good to me." Furball went over and activated Tornado. Once he grabbed his remote control, he and Fifi began driving Tornado and Panic Attack toward the junkyard exit and onto the sidewalk. So this is the end of the chapter, but there's an author's note that just says, "In case you're interested or curious to know what the robots look like, send me a private message and I'll send you pictures of any robot you wish to see." The robots in this story are all based on real-life robots that fought in robot wars in the United Kingdom, hence this is a Tiny Toons and Robot Wars crossover. So, you can't private message me, But Panic Attack and Tornado are real robots that fought on Robot Wars. And it just so happens in this day and age, there is a massive online fandom with a big dedicated wiki to Robot Wars. So you can just search for the Robot Wars wiki and then search for Panic Attack or Tornado or any of the other robots that get mentioned in this story. And you can see what they all look like if you are so inclined to do so. But I just figured I would continue on that author's note and, tell you where you can look at these robots if you want to. So that's the end of chapter 3. We're going to jump ahead a bit to chapter 8 called Let the Battles Begin. So basically what we've skipped and jumped ahead to are basically talking about what the other Toons were doing with their robots and traveling out to compete at Robot Wars and entering the Robot Wars arena and entering the pit area. So that's essentially what we've glazed over. I figured it was, for time constraints, it was not necessary to the plot of the story how they get to Robot Wars. It's just now they're at Robot Wars. So here's chapter 8, Let the Battles Begin. Later that day, the stands were filled with hundreds of spectators that are ready to witness some robot carnage, while the Toons were in the pits making some last-minute preparations. The spectators were all gathered around the arena until the lights went out, and they all cheered. It is showtime. Even people at home had their TVs on, ready to watch the battles from their living rooms. As the show began, an overhead male voice is heard speaking. Tonight, it all begins. You are about to witness the beginning of the end as all hell breaks loose in one event. The audience is seen cheering before the camera switches to the arena. This is the arena where the robots will fight to the death. 32 robots will enter the arena, each fighting for the honor of their schools. 16 students from Acme University will go head-to-head with 16 students from Perfecto Prep in the ultimate battle for survival. 32 robots will enter the war zone, but only one will come out on top as champion. This is the Acme Acres Robot Rumble. The camera switched to the cheering spectators as the show's logo appeared on screen. Once the logo disappeared, another voice, the one from the qualifiers, spoke up. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Master of Mayhem, Craig Charles. The crowd cheered as a man in a yellow outfit appeared on the balcony above the arena's entry gates. This is what it's all about, he began. This is where all the carnage will happen. This is the Acme Acres Robot Rumble! The crowd cheered loudly in excitement before Craig continued. Tonight, we will witness 16 robots from Acme University and 16 robots from Perfecto Prep. 32 robots in total go head-to-head in the quest for eternal glory. But not only will our competitors fight each other, they will have to deal with our arena, and let's not forget the house robots. Jonathan will tell you all about them. The camera then cut to the house robots lined up side by side as Jonathan's voice, the voice from the show's intro, is heard speaking. Beware these 8 mighty metal gladiators patrolling the arena we call the house robots. They will fill your robot's life with pain and misery. The camera switched to each house robot as Jonathan talks about them. The camera shows Matilda firing its tusks. First we have Matilda, the matriarch of mayhem, with her terrifying tusk and ferocious flywheel. Dead Metal is then shown closing its claws. Next we have Dead Metal with his scary serrated saw used for slicing and dicing. Cassius Chrome is shown next, firing its boxing gloves. Next is Cassius Chrome, and like the boxer he's named after, he's capable of delivering a 1-2 blow that will knock you out. Next up was Shunt, who fired its axe into the floor. Shunt is here with the power of penetrating metal with its diamond-edged axe. The camera then cuts to Sergeant Bash firing its flamethrower. Sergeant Bash is here with his flamethrower of fury, looking to leave all opponents hot under the collar. The camera then shows Growler opening its mouth, then Mr. Psycho who slammed its hammer into the ground. Next here we have Growler who will grab you down with his jaws like a real bulldog. He will not let go, but if you mess with this metallic mutt, you might come face to face with his nasty owner, Mr. Psycho. Last to be shown is Sir Killalot, who raised its lance and lowered its claw. And finally we have Sir Killalot, the king of the house robots. Don't you dare mess with this nightmarish knight, or he will cut you in half with his jaws of death. And to make sure everything is under control, we have our own Refbot keeping a watchful eye. After the Refbot is shown in front of the house robots, the camera then switched back to Craig up on the balcony. Thank you, Jonathan. We'd like to now get a closer look at our contestants in the pits. And here with us to cover the events happening backstage is our very own Philippa Forrester. The camera then switched to the pits where a woman with short blonde hair holding a microphone is speaking. Thank you very much, Craig. I am here with our 32 competitors ready to wreak havoc in the arena, but right now they are making some final adjustments before their big battles. The camera then switched to different competitors working on their robots. Bab sharpening the blade of Mortis's axe, Hampton filing Behemoth's scoop, Roderick Rat doing some soldering inside of his robot, Danny Dingo drilling a wheel onto his robot. Furball and Fifi are seen rolling Tornado past Philippa as she continued. They will be working long and hard to keep their robots in working and fighting form. They will have a limited amount of time to make repairs and recharge their batteries in between battles, so they will be working constantly back here in the pits. Right now they're getting ready for the action, so Craig, back to you. The camera then switched back to Craig up on the balcony. Thank you, Philippa. Now the way the battles work is simple. Each of our competitors will go head-to-head until a robot is immobilized. If there's no clear winner when time runs out, the decision will be made by our judges. They will award points on style, control, damage, and aggression. So I think we've waited long enough. Are you ready for some robotic destruction? The crowd cheered loudly for a moment before Craig continued. Alrighty then, Jonathan. Who are our 32 competitors fighting tonight? The camera then switched to the side of the arena where a grid appeared on screen and showed the names of all the robots and who they're fighting as Jonathan spoke up. Well, Craig, we've got a good lineup for round one. We've got Chaos 2 and Destructosaur heading things off, along with Firestorm and the Mega Morg. Then we've got Razor fighting Radis and Mousetrap looking to trap Chronic the Wedgehog. Then we'll have Tornado going up against Rat, Diator against the Double Trouble Gemini, Pussycat looking to take the hop out of Claude Hopper, and 101 will be going head-to-head with Fluffy. Then the mighty Behemoth will face GBH2, followed by Robo Chicken up against Kilohertz. Wheelie Big Cheese will be tackling Killertron, and Typhoon 2 will try to blow away Terror Turtle. Panic Attack will try to make Smidsy panic, while Mortis will try to avoid the terror of Terror Australis. Hypnodisc will be taking on the Lethal Swan, and finally Storm 2 will take Rhino by the horn. The camera switched back to Craig at the balcony one last time. I love myself the smell of napalm, so let's get cooking. Let the battles begin! At that moment, the crowd cheered one last time as round one had begun. So, we are now in Robot Wars territory. We've left Tiny Toons, we've left Acme Acres, and we've gone to the Robot Wars arena. So now the fanfic, as you may have noticed, is being described somewhat as if you're watching the show, talking about how the camera's cut. And this is pretty much shot for shot how an episode of Robot Wars go, except I think Craig Charles says, let the wars begin, not let the battles begin. Maybe he used to say that in older seasons, I can't remember, but it's been a while. So that's Chapter 8. We are actually going to fast forward again to Chapter 20, because what follows next is about 12.5 chapters of just describing the different fights that I said at the end of the chapter. So, you know, Pussycat versus Claude Hopper, Diator versus Gemini, 101 versus Fluffy. So we're going to skip ahead to Chapter 20, which is Typhoon 2 versus Terror Turtle. I figured I could read one of these robot combat chapters so that at least one of them is showcased in this episode. So here we go with Typhoon 2 versus Terror Turtle. Once Fifi rejoined the Toons, Furball spoke up. Hey Fif, what kept you? Oh, nothing. Monsieur Dizzy wanted moi to wish him good luck. Oh, I see. In the arena, a green rectangular robot that resembles a turtle entered from the left gate. It has 2 large wheels at the rear, a head on the front that looks like a turtle's head, and an overhead spinning iron bar that's longer than the robot itself and bent at both ends so they're only 10 centimeters above the floor. From Perfecto Prep, Terror Turtle. The driver of Terror Turtle is Tim Hardshell, who is, as you would expect, a turtle. The Toons all booed and the crowd cheered while the stats appeared on screen. It may be slow like a turtle at 7 miles per hour, but don't let that be the main focus. The main focus is that iron overhead spinning bar spinning at 120 miles per hour. Can this turtle cause terror in the arena, or will it be terror-pinned to oblivion? From Acme University, Typhoon 2. The Toons cheered as Dizzy's robot entered the arena. Let's go, Dizzy, Babs cheered. Come on, buddy, Furball shouted. Typhoon 2's stats then appeared. A nasty-looking machine with those blades spinning at over 1,200 RPM. It is driven by a petrol engine, armored in steel, and can run up to 17 miles per hour. Will Typhoon 2 whip up a storm in the war zone? I like the looks of this machine. Roboteers, stand by. Up in the control pods on the left, we have Tim Hardshell at the controls of Terror Turtle, and we have Dizzy Devil at the controls of Typhoon 2 on the right. Matilda is back in the arena as our house robot. Alongside with her is Cassius Chrome. 3, 2, 1, activate! It's the turtle against the typhoon. Let's see how things turn out here. Right away, both robots spun up their weapon. Typhoon 2's outer shell spun up very quickly, while Terror Turtle's weapon was spinning very slowly. Typhoon 2 moved away from Terror Turtle so that its weapon can spin up to full speed, but in doing so, the whole robot started wobbling slightly before it stabilized. This caused the flag on top of Dizzy's robot to rattle out of place. Typhoon 2, a full-body spinner, capable of spinning up to 1200 RPM, is looking a little unbalanced here. After a moment, Typhoon 2 approached Terror Turtle, weapon still spinning, and made contact. The impact sent Terror Turtle spinning into the wall while Typhoon 2 tossed itself across the arena. Oh, what a slam there by Typhoon 2! Terror Turtle, what kind of damage has been done to him? Terror Turtle backed away from the wall and started spinning its weapon back up. Typhoon 2 quickly approached the green robot and broke off one end of the spinning bar. Typhoon coming in with another hit, and off comes a blade from Terror Turtle's weaponry. With its weapon unbalanced, Terror Turtle started shaking side to side as its weapon continued spinning. The Perfecto Prep representative was unable to move very well. After another moment, Typhoon 2 moved towards his opponent and smacked Terror Turtle's wheel, the green robot sliding a couple meters. Typhoon 2 with another hit, right into the wheel of Terror Turtle. That's going to affect the drive of Terror Turtle there. Because of the damage done to the wheel, it's no longer working. Terror Turtle is now running on only one wheel. Dizzy moves his robot for another hit. This time the Perfecto Prep representative got flipped upside down. With the overhead bar in the way, Terror Turtle couldn't run inverted. Typhoon 2 with yet another hit, and Terror Turtle has toppled over. This is a tremendous battle so far. The Toons cheered, knowing that Dizzy has this battle in his hands. There you go, Dizzy, Furball shouted. You got him now, Cosette exclaimed. With Terror Turtle immobilized, Dizzy positioned his robot and waited for Typhoon 2's weapon to spin up to full speed. Typhoon 2 now stalking his prey, getting ready to go in for the kill. Shortly afterward, Dizzy's robot started producing a humming sound, which grew louder as the robot's shell spun faster. A few of the Toons, along with some of the other audience members, covered their ears. Hang on a minute! Do you hear that? That's the sound of Typhoon 2's weapon reaching full speed! Listen to that! It's so lovely! It's like music to my ears! Once Typhoon 2 finally reached full speed, Dizzy slowly moved his robot toward his immobile opponent. The result was a violent hit that sent Terror Turtle careening into the wall. However, Typhoon 2 flew full speed into another wall, and with the blade still spinning, the Lexan on the wall shattered into several pieces. Typhoon 2 with a hit, and Terror Turtle spinning out of control, and oh goodness me! Typhoon 2 has destroyed the arena sidewall! Cease. Cease has been called. The judges have put a stop to this fight for safety reasons. Well, 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 Craig said as he appeared. What an interesting battle. Typhoon 2 has shattered the arena wall. The judges will have to make a decision here, and they already said that up to the point of the wall breaking, Typhoon 2 has done a massive amount of damage to Terror Turtle. So the winner is Typhoon 2! The crowd and Toons cheered at Typhoon 2's victory. Yay! Dizzy celebrated. Good job, Dizzy! Buster shouted as the Toons continued with their celebration. In the pits, the Toons cheered for Dizzy as he wheeled Typhoon 2 out on a cart. Great job, Dizzy, Hampton said. You did very well out there, Furball complimented. Fifi then said, We, very, very well. Thanks, Dizzy replied. Dizzy must go charge batteries. See you all shortly. Dizzy started pushing Typhoon 2 to his pit table, but suddenly stopped and turned to Fifi. Thank you, Fifi. You're welcome, Monsieur Dizzy. Once Dizzy resumed his walk to the pit table, Furball spoke up. What did he thank you for? I gave his robot a kiss before the fight. Oh, I see. That was nice of you. He asked moi. Really? Mm-hmm. Huh. Interesting. And it actually helped him win. Oui. I'll have to give his robot another kiss on the next round. After a moment, Plucky spoke up. So, who's fighting next? No one answered the Green Duck's question. They thought about it for a moment until a voice called out. Good day, mates. The Toons turned to see David Dingo and an orange dingo pushing a robot on a cart. The robot appeared to be a flat, four-wheeled, square-shaped robot with a pointed wedge at the front and a small horizontal spinning disc at the rear. The robot was colored black with a pair of orange triangles painted on the wedge resembling evil eyes. On the top of the robot is a much bigger triangle with the name Smidsy printed in it. David, Buster greeted. Fancy seeing you here. Who's the other guy? This is my brother Danny, David replied. Hello, Danny greeted to the Toons. Who are you guys fighting? Shirley asked. Danny answered, I'm fighting a robot called Panic Attack. Fifi opened her eyes wide in surprise. Are we fighting now? The purple skunk asked. If you're the one who built Panic Attack, then yes. David then said, I'll be fighting next, against Mortis. Hey, that's my robot, Babs exclaimed. Better get ready then. As the two dingoes pushed their robot to the arena, Fifi spoke up. I gotta get ready. I had no idea I was next. And without another word, Fifi quickly stormed to her pit table to prepare Panic Attack for battle. Poor Terror Turtle, Jonathan said as Terror Turtle is being crossed out on the battle board. Tossed, turned over, and terrorized by Typhoon 2, who will be going through here. Panic Attack and Smidsy are up next. And that's the end of the Typhoon 2 versus Terror Turtle chapter. So, like I said, basically, he describes how the hypothetical fight goes. I want to say that Typhoon 2 versus Terror Turtle is a real fight that actually happened, and this is exactly how it played out, because I remember Terror Turtle's weapon breaking in real life at one point, and it spinning like a piece of crap. And I also remember Typhoon 2 smashing the arena wall and the fight having to be stopped for safety reasons. So this may be a retelling of a fight that, as it actually happened, with a little bit of, Tiny Toons sprinkled into it. I'm not quite sure about that. So that was an example of one of the robot combat chapters. Like I said, there's about 12 of them. There's a lot. And then there's even more where there's some special battles that he goes over. So we're going to skip all of those. You guys have gotten a taste for how the robot combat section works. And we are now jumping ahead to chapter 44, which is the grand final. The Toons all gathered in the stands as Craig is seen at the balcony. This is what it's all been leading up to, the host announced. After 30 devastating battles, many robots have died in vain. Now only 2 remain, and they are here to battle it out for the title. This is the grand final! The crowd cheered loudly for a moment before Craig continued. Let's bring out our 2 bravest and strongest metal warriors. First up is a robot with a simple design, but several deadly weaponry, sheer power, and lots of brute force. They took out Rat, Gemini, Pussycat, and Razor to get this far. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Tornado! The crowd cheered again as Tornado, with the wedge attached to the front, entered the arena from the left gate, with Furball looking down from the left control pod. Our second robot, Craig continued, is colored black and yellow, the colors of danger. It took quite a beating, but never backed down from even the most dangerous of bouts. It defeated Smidsy, Mortis, Hypnodisc, and Behemoth to get here. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Panic Attack! The crowd cheered once again as Panic Attack drove out onto the opposite gate, with Fifi in the opposite control booth. Roboteers, stand by. So here we are for the final battle. Tornado now armed with the wedge at the front, and Panic Attack still battle-scarred but going strong. Our house robots are Shunt and Matilda for the final time in the Acme Acres Robot Rumble. 3, 2, 1, activate! Here we go for the very last time. It's kill or be killed. Both robots were moving slowly as the fight began. Furball wanted to make sure Fifi's robot was fully functional. After a moment, Furball quickly drove his robot past Panic Attack. Both robots steady off the mark, sizing each other up. Once both robots faced each other, Tornado charged into Panic Attack, getting under the forks and shoving Fifi's robot into the wall. Tornado in on the attack, bulldozing Panic Attack across the arena, and a slam against the arena sidewall. Tornado then drove off with Panic Attack going after the red robot. Tornado ran into Panic Attack and slammed it against the wall again, the rear wedge coming off. After pinning Panic Attack against the wall for a few moments, Tornado backed away and Panic Attack chased after its opponent. Tornado charged towards Panic Attack for another head-on collision, but this time Tornado drove up onto the top of Panic Attack. Tornado tried to reverse off, but Panic Attack raised its spikes and hooked Tornado by its front right wheel guard. Tornado with another slam, but it's Panic Attack with the upper hand this time, and now Tornado is hooked on the lifting spikes of Panic Attack. Panic Attack carried Tornado over to the flame grill, where large bursts of flame shot out of the floor and smothered Tornado. Fifi then reversed her robot, Tornado still hooked on the spikes, and drove forward until Tornado got tipped onto its side and pushed upside down, the wedge now sticking up helplessly in the air. Panic Attack still has Tornado in its grasp, and Tornado is up and turned over. Upsy-daisy, topsy-turvy, the wedge is useless now. Tornado darted off as Panic Attack lowered its forks. Tornado then rammed into the pit release tire and ripped it off the wall as the pit started descending. Pfft, ha ha ha, you're only supposed to touch the pit tire. Tornado ran around the arena as Furball is trying to think of a way he can get his robot righted so he can use his wedge again. Then Furball came up with an idea. He drove Tornado into Matilda's corner patrol zone, hoping that the house robot will flip his robot right side up. Matilda went in with the tusks and flipped Tornado up and against the arena wall, leaving the red robot stranded and unable to move. Tornado getting into Matilda's CPZ and is now flipped onto the arena sidewall. I think Tornado was trying to get Matilda to flip him back over, but that seemed to have backfired. Furball jiggled his joystick like mad. Okay. trying to get his robot off the wall. Panic Attack then came in and knocked Tornado free. Tornado landed right side up and drove off. With the wedge now back on the ground, Tornado went back after Panic Attack, who tried to run away, but drove into an empty corner patrol zone with Tornado attacking from behind. Shunt then closed in on both robots, and Tornado quickly reversed out, and Shunt started attacking Panic Attack. The house robot held Fifi's robot against the wall as the axe came down on Panic Attack. Shunt's coming in now for some robot blood. Tornado gets out of the way wisely as the axe come crashing down on Panic Attack. Fifi tried desperately to escape, but Shunt had her robot pinned to the ground as it landed a few more hits with its axe. Tornado then came in and plowed into Shunt, allowing Panic Attack to escape. Tornado got under Shunt and started pushing the house robot around the arena. Oh ho, look at Tornado there, taking on the house robot, and he's pushing him around! Tornado's got a lot of power behind those wheels. Refbot then went in to split Tornado from Shunt as Furball steered his robot away and started going after Panic Attack again. Panic Attack faced Tornado, who drove up on top of the black and yellow robot. As Tornado tried to back off, Panic Attack hooked the robot on the lifting spikes and flipped it over once again. Tornado going in for another attack, but Panic Attack got him with the spikes again. Up and over goes Tornado, and the wedge is useless once more. Furball, without thinking, drove right into Matilda's flywheel, which sent Tornado a few feet in the air before it crashed down to the ground, still upside down. Oh, Tornado, what were you thinking? Drove right to the ferocious flywheel of Matilda, but Tornado seems to be okay. Tornado, despite the wedge being no help, went after Panic Attack again, who easily got under Furball's robot and lifted it with the spikes. Panic Attack carried Tornado over the flame jet, which bathed the red robot in fire. Panic Attack held Tornado over the flame jet for a few moments before letting it go. While Panic Attack backed away, Tornado drove into Shunt's shovel, with Furball hoping that the house robot will flip his robot back over. But it didn't. Instead, Shunt pinned Tornado into the wall and struck one of the wheels with its axe, puncturing the tire. Shunt now has Tornado pinned with the axe! Ooh, right down on the tire! That might hinder Tornado's mobility. Shunt backed off as Tornado drove after Panic Attack again. Fifi's robot got under and lifted Tornado up before it carried Tornado over to an angle grinder right next to Matilda's CPZ. Sparks flew as Panic Attack held Tornado for a few moments before it let the red robot down. Then Fifi didn't pay attention to where she's driving and backed right into Matilda's flywheel. The impact sent Panic Attack careening a few feet into the air just as high as Tornado went. Fifi's heart skipped a beat as she watched her robot sail in the air before it landed back on its wheels. Panic Attack backing away, right into Matilda. That was poor driving by Panic Attack. Taste the fury of Matilda's flywheel. Fifi let out a sigh of relief. Since Panic Attack no longer has the Shreemech, it would not be able to right itself if it was flipped. However, Fifi quickly noticed something is wrong. After that hit from Matilda, Panic Attack could no longer turn left or right. It could only drive forward and backward. However, Furball is also facing a problem with his robot. Tornado drove to the center of the arena before it stopped moving completely. Things got worse, though, as Furball saw some smoke coming out of his robot. Oh dear, look at that! Tornado is smoking, and we're all choking! I think this fight might belong to Panic Attack now. Furball played with his joystick for a bit before Tornado started moving again. Tornado started after Panic Attack before it slowed to a halt and billowed an enormous cloud of smoke. Whoa, goodness me, look at Tornado shooting out smoke like an industrial factory. I think the flamejet may have burned a motor or something. Furball let his robot rest for a bit before he reversed it and charged it toward Panic Attack. The collision knocked Panic Attack's forks askew, leaving it unable to work anymore. Tornado, still smoking, and Panic Attack both reversed to opposite sides of the arena, then charged at each other with whatever strength they had left. The two robots collided, and Tornado climbed on top of Panic Attack once again, just like before. But this time, Tornado remained sitting on top of Panic Attack. However, Panic Attack also showed no signs of movement, as both robots lay motionless, with Tornado still smoking and stacked on top of Panic Attack. Panic Attack is wearing Tornado like a hat, and I see no movement from either robot. Are they both immobilized? Refbot came in and rammed into the two robots, knocking Tornado off of Panic Attack. However, despite that, both robots remained inactive, while Furball and Fifi are doing everything they can to get their bots moving again. After Tornado and Panic Attack both showed no signs of life, the Refbot positioned itself between both robots and started the countdown. The Refbot has started the count! This hasn't happened before! Both robots are being counted out! Refbot buzzed 3 times as the timer read 8, then 9, and finally 10. Cease. The crowd started cheering, but the Toons did not. Furball and Fifi both felt their hearts racing. Nobody knows what happened or who won the fight. Both robots were dead in the water. What a fantastic final, Craig said as he appeared. The judges said that since both robots were immobilized at the same time, the Refbot counted them both out. So the judges will have to decide a winner, and while they make their final decision, let's check out the highlights of this intense battle. The camera then started showing cuts of the best moments of the fight, with Jonathan narrating over them. Tornado was off to an aggressive start, getting a few good shoves there. Then Panic Attack fought back, holding Tornado over the flames and flipping it over. The house robots really did a number here. Shunt doing damage with the axe, puncturing the tire of Tornado, and Matilda with the flywheel. That impact from Matilda must have caused some internal damage to Panic Attack. That was a big mistake by Fifi driving in there in the first place, and then Tornado started smoking heavily. Both robots then broke down in the end. What's the final verdict here? Did Tornado cause enough damage? Did Panic Attack manage to turn this fight around? We'll have to wait and see what the judges say about that. So that was another robot combat chapter. I figured I would probably read one of the regular ones and then read the grand final, because I can't not read the grand final, since it's the grand final and all. So that was chapter 44, the grand final. We next move on to chapter 45, which is called The Winner. Up at the balcony, Craig is standing between Furball and Fifi, listening through his earpiece while holding the trophy in his hand. The trophy is shaped like the show's logo, made from salvaged metal parts. Well, Craig spoke up, the judges have made their decision. Remember the 4 criterias: style, control, damage, and aggression. Fifi, do you think you won this? I cannot say, Fifi answered. What about you, Furball? Not a clue, Furball replied. Well, let's ask the crowd and hear what they think. Craig turned to face the audience. If you think Panic Attack won the grand final, make some noise. The crowd cheered loudly upon Craig's cue. If you think Tornado won, make some noise. The crowd cheered again, but with the same volume as when they cheered for Panic Attack. Oh ho ho, it's all even Steven, Craig commented. Well, I'll tell you what. The judges had a real tough time deciding this battle. It was very, very close. Here's how the judges sorted this fight. Furball and Fifi both paid attention to Craig, eager to know who won the title. They say that aggression, Craig continued, was won by Tornado, okay? Style was won by Panic Attack. Control, also won by Panic Attack. And damage was won by Tornado. The crowd all murmured as Craig finished his sentence. So both robots won 2 criterias apiece. However, the winner is the one who claimed the most important criteria, and that one important criteria, everyone waited in anticipation to hear the winner of it all, is damage. So the winner is Tornado! The crowd cheered loudly as Furball felt a surge of excitement go through his body. A smile slowly formed on his face before he looked around at everyone applauding over his victory. He couldn't believe it. He is the last one standing. He never thought that he would ever be the champion in his first ever robot combat competition. Craig turned to Fifi and spoke with her first. Fifi, he began, it must have been a hassle getting your robot repaired after fighting Hypnodisc, but you were able to pull it off and make it this far. What do you think about that? I am très happy, Fifi replied. I thought I would lose against Hypnodisc, but Furball encouraged moi, and many of my friends helped moi fix my robot. I cannot thank them enough. Well, here you are, in the final, and you lost a very close match to your boyfriend. Do you have anything to say about that? Well, I sort of knew Furball would beat moi. His robot is better than mine, especially after what Hypnodisc did to my robot. Did you have a good time out here on the Acme Acres Robot Rumble? Oui, certainly. I can't wait to do it all again. All right, ladies and gents, give it up for Panic Attack! The crowd cheered loudly as Craig turned to Furball, the trophy still in his hand. Furball, you've done it! You've won! I know, the Blue Cat said. I can't believe it. Did you ever think you would win it all in your very first time competing? Never. I just wanted to play along with my friends and learn some new things. I never expected to win the whole thing. Well, you did. And for that, this is yours. Craig handed the trophy to Furball, who happily took it. Furball stared at it in amazement as Fifi looked on with a smile on her face, but then Furball's smile faded away and slowly became a frown. He thought about everything that Fifi went through during the competition and how close she came to winning herself. What's the matter, Furball? Craig asked. Then without a word, Furball stepped up to Fifi and held the trophy out to her. You can have this, Furball said, which made some of the audience gasp in surprise. Huh? A dumbfounded Fifi said. But why? I don't think the judges made the right decision. I think you deserve this. Oh, Furball, you are très sweet. But non, you's won it fair and square. I know, but I think you're the real winner here. Go ahead and take it. Non, Furball, you's won it. You's get to keep it. Furball, not wanting to push things further, simply smiled at Fifi, who smiled back. Well, this is interesting, Craig said. A real act of sportsmanship here. Why do you think Fifi won the fight, Furball? I just think she deserves it more than I do. She worked so hard to get her robot working for the rest of the event, and since my robot was smoking at the end of the fight, I feel like I should have been deemed immobilized before Fifi. I do believe that Fifi is the rightful champion. Aw, some of the crowd said. Craig thought for a moment before he came up with something. Well, he started, I think I may have a better way to settle this. He turned to the arena and faced the crowd. I'm going to let the audience decide the winner here. If you think Panic Attack won, make some noise! The crowd cheered long and loud in response. If you think Tornado won, make some noise! The crowd cheered again with the same exact volume. Panic Attack! The crowd cheered again. Tornado! The crowd cheered again. Well, it's hard to decide with the crowd. Craig was interrupted by Furball, who tugged on his arm. Craig leaned down to the blue cat, who whispered something into his ear. Craig smiled at Furball's idea before he faced the crowd once more. If you think both robots won, make some noise! The crowd cheered yet again, but this time it's the loudest they've ever cheered. Then we have our results. Panic Attack and Tornado are your Acme Acres Robot Rumble champions! Everyone cheered again as Furball and Fifi hugged each other excitedly. So, Craig turned back to the cat and skunk. Furball, since you won the original judge's decision, you can keep that trophy, and Fifi will have another one made for you. Okay, sounds good to moi, Fifi replied. Ladies and gents, give it up for our champions! The audience cheered one last time as Furball and Fifi both held the trophy high in the air. So that's the end of chapter 45. Obviously, you may have noticed that Craig mentioned that Furball was Fifi's boyfriend. So without touching on that, we'll get into that in the next chapter. But people like to make pairings. It's called shipping in fan fiction when people pair two characters together and say that they're in a relationship. So Richard, in this case, he ships Furball and Fifi. So they're technically a couple, which I guess you probably could have inferred from earlier in the story when they were both at the junkyard together. So we've got one more chapter to read, and it's chapter 46, True Companionship. Furball and Fifi both return to the pits with their bots, the blue cat holding the trophy. Panic Attack has its missing wedge on top of the robot, while Tornado has stopped smoking completely. The Toons all gathered in the pits and applauded loudly for the two champions as they approached the cat and skunk and held them both up, carrying them to their pit tables in celebration. Hooray for our champions, Babs exclaimed before the Toons cheered again. Thanks, guys, Furball said. I honestly don't know what to say. You two did spectacular out there, Calamity commented. Fifi replied, Oui, but to be honest, I did not expect the two of us to win. Me neither, Furball commented. All this time I thought Buster would become the champion. Yeah, well, Buster started. I did my best. Congratulations, you two. Merci, Buster, Fifi said before the Toons all gathered back at their pit tables. As Furball and Fifi started packing their things, Orson, David, and Danny showed up. Good day, Danny greeted. Bonjour, Fifi responded. Hey, how's it going? Furball said. Good over here, Orson answered. Congrats on winning the tournament. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. Not only that, we learned so many things along the way. So did we, David said. Fifi then said, Merci for helping moi fix my robot. No problem, Sheila. My name is Fifi. After a short pause, Orson spoke up. Hey, can we ask you guys a favor? What's that? Furball wondered. Is it okay if we can be friends? Furball and Fifi stood silent for a moment. They were quite surprised to hear a request like that by someone from their opposing school. But after everything they did, with David and Orson helping Fifi repair Panic Attack, and Danny giving Furball the key to beating Gemini, they think it would be a good idea to be their friends. Sure, Furball replied. We can be friends. Right, Fifi? I do not see a problem with that. All right, Danny said. We're quite glad to hear that. Just don't tell Rod or Ruby about it. Keep our friendship a secret. Certainly, Furball promised. Your secret is safe with us. Thank you, Orson commented. The last thing we want is Roderick to yell in our faces. But hey, David started. If it does happen, I can throw a wrench at him, too. The group all laughed momentarily before David said, but seriously, we don't want him to get us expelled from Perfecto. Furball asked, why would you get expelled for making friends with us? Because Rod considers the folks of Acme Lou enemies, and he doesn't like it when his allies become friends with his enemies. Fifi commented, that sounds, how you say, a little unorthodox, no? Well, it's just like in Harry Potter. Acme Lou and Perfecto Prep are similar to Gryffindor and Slytherin. They're two polar opposites. An idea then came up in Furball's head. Well, if you ever do get thrown out, we can give you an open invitation to join our school. Seriously? Danny asked, genuinely surprised. Yeah, if Roderick ever finds out and you all get kicked out, you can join us at Acme Lou. I'll talk to Buster about it. Gee, thanks, Furball. That's very noble of you. Absolutely, Orson agreed. We really appreciate the offer. David commented, we'll consider the idea if we ever get thrown out of Perfecto. Why don't you join us now? Fifi asked. Good question. We would like to join Acme Lou now, but we're in a band with Rod. Ah, yes, the Painkillers, Furball remembered. Yeah, if we transfer to Acme Lou, then we'll have to disband because, like I said, Rod won't want to be friends with us if he finds out we're friends with you two. Okay, fair enough. After the group finished their conversation, Danny gave the cat and skunk the two halves of Smidzy's jaws. He gave the upper half to Fifi and the lower half to Furball. Soon everyone packed up their tools and robots before they all gathered together where they had their builders meeting before the event. Derek is standing next to a table with a few trophies, each of various designs. These trophies were made and given to those who earned different achievements throughout the competition. The first trophy for Best Engineered Robot was awarded to Buster, while Babs won the Most Aggressive Robot award. Calamity claimed the title for Best Robot Design, Cassette won the trophy for the Best Driven Robot, David and Orson both won an award for Best Sportsmanship, and Plucky won a special trophy for having the funniest looking robot, which was enough to make Plucky feel like a winner. After the awards ceremony, Fifi was given her first place trophy as Craig promised. Everyone then said their goodbyes and they all exited the building with their tools and robots before the warehouse was closed down. Later that night in the junkyard, Fifi was in the Cadillac, writing in her diary about how much fun she and Furball had at the competition, and how much they learned from building and engineering. At that moment, Furball entered the car and saw Fifi on the couch. "Hey, Fifi," Furball started. "Yes? Want to go to the park?" "Sure, I'd love to. I have a ride arranged for us." "A ride, you say?" "Yep, just step outside the door." "Ooh," Fifi said as she closed her diary, wondering what kind of ride Furball had set up for them. Fifi followed her boyfriend out the door before he said, "Your carriage awaits." Furball held his arms out past him and Fifi saw he's pointing at Tornado. She giggled and said, "We're riding on Tornado?" "Sure, might as well use it one last time." Furball grabbed his transmitter and sat down on top of Tornado. Fifi sat behind Furball and wrapped her arms and tail around Furball's waist. "Hold on tight," Furball said before he started driving Tornado out of the junkyard and off to the park. After a few minutes of driving, Furball and Fifi both reached their destination and continued riding Tornado through the park until they eventually reached a random tree. The cat and skunk climbed off a Tornado before Furball deactivated his robot and joined his girlfriend under the tree. Furball placed his arm around Fifi as they both lay against the tree looking up at the night sky. "It's such a beautiful night, isn't it?" Furball said. "Oui, it is très beautiful," Fifi responded. After about a moment, Fifi rolled to face Furball and snuggled into his chest. The blue cat looked down with a smile and held his sweetheart with both arms. "Did you have fun at the event?" he asked. "Oui, I had a lot of fun. It's so nice to try something new and learn a lot along the way." Oui, and we made new friends and we won the event." Furball chuckled. "We sure did. I cannot wait to do it all again." "Me too." The cat and skunk looked up at the sky, gazing upon the bright twinkling stars back down from space. Furball looked back down at Fifi and started purring softly, which made the purple skunk look up at Furball and smile back. "I'm so glad we were able to compete together," Furball said. "Everything we do together makes things a whole lot better." Fifi giggled and said, "Indeed, I love it when we do things together. If it wouldn't for you, I would not have done so well." "I could say the same for you." "What do you mean?" "You, how do I put this? You inspired me to fight and win. During these fights, whenever I saw you in the crowd or in my mind, it gave me the determination I needed to fight and win. So you did all this for moi?" "In a sense, yes." Fifi giggled again. "Hey, it worked. We made it to the grand final and won the grand prize." "That's true, but it's not the grandest prize there's ever won." "No? What would that grandest prize be?" "You're looking right at it." The cat and skunk both smiled romantically as they looked into each other's eyes and held each other closer. Fifi is right. She is the greatest thing that has ever happened to Furball. She is the one who gave him a home, a new life, and all the love that he deserves. They gently pressed their heads together as Furball started purring louder and Fifi blanketed her lover with her tail. "I love you, Furball." "I love you too, Fifi." The cat and skunk closed their eyes and slowly started kissing, their hearts both beating slow and gently as they kissed for a moment, before they parted their lips and stared into each other's eyes with loving smiles. Fifi then covered into Furball's chest again as the blue cat continued purring and held his girlfriend close to his heart. The couple held each other tightly with their eyes closed, smiling as they savored every single second of their wonderful romantic evening under the starlit sky. The end. And there's some more author's notes here I'd like to read. And that concludes the longest story I've ever written. After 2 full years, it is finally done. This one was quite a pain to write, seeing as how I took a break from the story 3 times to work on other stories, but it is finally done, and I sure as heck ain't going to write another story this long ever again. I'm going to have to put a limit on chapters for my stories from now on. What will the limit be? I don't know yet, but we're finally done here, and I'm not so sure whether I want to take a break from writing fanfics or get started on the next one right away, because I already have quite a few more ideas on future stories. So thanks for reading this long story. I hope Tiny Toons and Robot Wars fans all around enjoy this story. Stay tuned for whatever story I come up with next. Well, Richard, this Tiny Toons and Robot Wars fan did enjoy your story, if it means anything. So that was actually, in terms of fanfics that Richard published, that was his from the newest going to oldest, that's his fourth newest story. He wrote 3 more stories after this one, the last one being updated on November 11th, 2020, but it remains unfinished and will obviously never be finished. So that was Acme Acres' Robot Rumble, a story that I read quite some time ago. I think I caught it when it was first being updated back in 2014, and it came onto my radar when I was initially looking for stuff for Fanfiction Factory back when we were a part of Gatorbox. And I dog-eared this story because I found that Tiny Toons and Robot Wars as a crossover was such a weird concept. I was like, who would write something like this? That's pretty far out. And I still stand by that assessment. It is far out. It's interesting. It's strange. And but it was written pretty well. There was a lot of dialogue, probably more dialogue than there was action, but that's just his style. Like I said, this led to me actually meeting Richard later on as I pieced together, hey, you're the guy that wrote the Tiny Toons and Robot Wars story. And like I said, he and I had that moment where we kind of bonded over this. So I hope I did him justice in reading this. Tonight's presentation was my way of putting his name in the sky one last time, because he's out among the stars now, and I just wanted to read his story and have it here for posterity on the show. I didn't read the whole story, obviously, but hopefully I read enough for you guys to get the gist of it. I read the opening, I read some of the middle, and then I read the closing. You know, reading this story kind of hits differently for me now. Kind of makes me think about what it's like to die in the digital age, in a sense. You know, you pass away and you leave everything behind. You leave all of your accounts behind online. And in Richard's case, he left behind a treasury of fan fiction, all Tiny Toons fan fiction. And it's unfortunate that his last story is going to remain unfinished. That kind of hits me a little hard. Just looking at that, seeing that it was updated recently, and knowing that a year after that story was last updated, he would pass away. The story was started on March 8th, 2017, and it was last updated in 2020, so he'd been cracking away at it for about 3 years, just like the Robot Wars fanfic, which took 2 years to write. But it just kind of saddens me to see that the last one will remain unfinished. There are some comments on Acme Acres Robot Rumble. There's 51 of them, actually, and almost all but 5 of them come from the same account, the same person reading chapter by chapter and leaving a comment after every chapter was posted. So he left a lot of encouraging comments for Richard to keep up with the story, and I feel like that probably gave him the driving force he needed to finish the story, because there was one guy who just kept encouraging him to create and to finish this story, and for it to be marked complete is a real achievement. You know, that's 46 chapters, that's 77,000 words. Yeah, it's a Tiny Toons and Robot Wars crossover fanfic, and it's kind of silly and goofy, but god damn it, he finished it. And he wrote out all the fights, he wrote out all the dialogue, and he finished it. And I think that's commendable. And I hope that I did it justice by reading it on this show, because I figured the 10th episode would be a nice milestone achievement for me to go ahead and open up about this aspect of my life and read something from one of my late friends. So, Richard, this one was for you, bud. And wherever you are right now, save a seat for me. Thank you for listening to Fanfiction Factory. I really appreciate it. I've been your host, Draco from Gatorbox, and I'm signing out.
Fanfiction Factory is a production of Gator Company. To support the podcast, please visit patreon.com/Gatorbox to make a pledge today. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next journey.